This is Blenderstyle, the show where we discuss a blend of heavy and extreme music. On this episode, Trivium Shogun. This album was released in 2008 on Roadrunner Records. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So, Casey, this is your pick. I am familiar with Trivium. I kind of got into the Crusade album a little bit, and then there's been handfuls of singles that I've listened to.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming the Dragon is a fucking killer song. I really like that one. Why'd you pick Trivium?
Well, so first off, I want to say I feel sorry for you because that was the worst album I think I've ever heard in my life.
Well, the Crusade?
Dude, it was so horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got into Trivium back. I want
Was
to say
Crusade before or after this?
Before
right
this
before
one.
this.
Which one's Crusade?
It's the one
right
where they
before
sound
this?
exactly like Metallica through the whole thing.
Oh.
Maybe that's why I liked
Yeah.
it.
So no, I got into Trivium back. I heard a demo.
You heard a Trivium demo?
I heard a Trivium demo years ago with no vocals, and I don't remember.
How'd you get your hands
Yeah,
on
that's
that?
crazy.
I don't know. It was back when my brother's band was doing a bunch of like stuff down in LA all the time. They were always coming back with weird demos, and I don't know how I heard it. I heard like it was a demo or a sample or something, and there were no vocals on it. And I was like, dude, this is really cool music, but I couldn't get into it because of the lack of vocals. And then Ember to Inferno came out, and I was like, this is horrible. It was just
That's the first time I ever heard them. Was
Yeah,
on that album.
and it was too brutal.
So you heard, Nathan, you heard them on their first album?
Yeah, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I don't know what it was. It was maybe it was just too sloppy. But Ascendancy came out, and that was an amazing album, and so I became like a pretty big fan at the time.
I think I listened to that one too.
And then the Crusade came out, and I was like, what's wrong with these guys? And then this album came out, and this was kind of a weird cross between the Crusade and Ascendancy, and you could really tell they're still trying to find their sound in this album compared to where they're at now. Yeah, I think
Don't they try to like change their sound pretty much almost every album though? I feel like.
So I feel like they started out with Ember to Inferno and Ascendancy, and they were pretty similar in sound.
Yeah.
I mean, production value got way better, and like the guitar work and the drum work and stuff got way cleaner on Ascendancy. And then the Crusade came out, and they were kind of a victim to their own success. You know, they let all the reviews and the people not liking the fact that they were getting so big get to them. And the Crusade to me was just like a try to be something you're not. I don't think it was a great album. There's people who think it's great. Obviously, we know somebody.
I wouldn't say it's great, but I did like that one.
But I feel like this was kind of a return to the core sound that got them signed and got them big, with a little bit of sprinkling of their own sound in there at the time. And so, yeah.
So that first album was the first time I ever heard them, and it was definitely metalcore influence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like metalcore thrash, and to me, this is exactly what this sounds like.
Yeah,
This
thrashy
is
metalcore.
thrash with metalcore.
Oh, for sure.
On it, you know what I mean. So
His vocals are like very Hetfield-esque.
at points, yeah. So like, it's like he's either got the guttural, or the singing,
Mm-hmm.
or like the mid, and then he has like the James
The hints
Hetfield
of Hetfield thing.
like voice for sure.
And that's what I'm kind of getting at. So on Ascendancy, it was all growls and clean, or the lows and the mids and the clean. There were no Hetfield kind of sound to it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pick up much Metallica sound. I mean, you totally picked up influence on Ascendancy. But then the Crusade came out, and it was like a Metallica clone to me.
This is still kind of Metallica influence.
No, and that's what I'm saying. This is kind of a weird mix. This is them trying to establish their own sound, I feel like. But still having that, you could tell where they were influenced.
I definitely think that there's influences all over this.
Mm-hmm.
But for sure, one that sticks out, and in parts, not all parts, is definitely Metallica.
Oh, for sure.
And I would say vocally a lot, mainly because
Mhm.
he sounds like James Hetfield.
Oh, yeah.
He
He
does.
sounds like he's trying
to imitate.
You can tell that he is a big fan of James.
Oh
Hetfield.
yeah, for sure.
For sure.
He said the first metal album he got was Metallica's Black Album.
Okay, and you could totally tell. And I think
Dude, the first track on this record sounds like Master of Puppets.
But then it switches gears to like metalcore.
Exactly.
Like,
So that's kind of one of my likes, is that it kind of has like the thrash metalcore feel. You know
Oh, yeah?
what I mean? It's kind of like a little different. I know bands like Unearthed and like Shadows Fall kind of did that, you know?
Mhm.
But this kind of definitely, this album rides a little more on the thrash, but it's pretty technical at times, you know what I mean? And I kind of like that. I kind of like that it's kind of everywhere.
yeah, I feel like they really tried to show their ability, their playing ability on this one.
No, for sure.
I think that was one of the criticisms they got when in their early years was, you know, there was a lot of people torn between, oh, they're playing and they're really basic, or oh, they're doing this and they're really basic. And so they came out with the Crusade and they tried to show that they could, you know, they could play well and stuff. But then it got, oh, well, now they play this, but they sound almost exactly like another band. And so they came out with this and kind of mixed the two. It's a super technical album, like you said. It rides that line between thrash and just classical traditional metal, more leaning on the thrash side, and they do a really good job of switching it up and like mixing it around.
Yeah, it's definitely musicianship is a like for me.
Mm-hmm.
All these guys know how to play their instruments, you
Oh,
know.
for sure.
I like the blend of like genres they're throwing in here.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
dynamic of it is pretty cool.
I mean, they kind of switch gears a lot between thrash and metalcore, but I think it's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And when they go to the thrash guitar playing on this is excellent.
It is. It's very good.
And the solos sound like, it reminds me of a cross between Megadeth, Metallica, and Slayer.
Mm-hmm.
But better players. Like these guys play better than Metallica does.
I agree. Like there's, like,
I'm not saying they're better than Metallica.
right,
I'm
but
just saying the fact that these guys are pretty.
more shits on time and like right, and it makes sense.
Yeah, but
To,
there's
like-
some James Hetfield little riffs in this album
There
too.
are.
Like the little like you know, like I don't know. There's some James Hetfield riffs in this.
Another thing that's really cool about this is like, and I don't know if I've heard it a lot in this style of music, but the bass guitar has these really cool peaks where it comes out and it kind of rides and then steps back. And they do it quite a few times in a lot of different songs on here, which is really cool because it's not something you normally hear in a thrash metal song where the bass guitar will take lead. But it's a very subtle lead, which is really cool.
And I think that's because of the production, which is something else I like about
Mhm.
it. Everything's mixed really well.
It is.
This sounds awesome, dude.
Well,
Like on headphones, on your iPhone, in your car. It sounds pretty good everywhere you listen to it.
They paid attention to detail in this album.
For
You know
sure.
what I mean, everything, every waking hour went into this album. You know, it's pretty insane how they put this together. Actually, I
Yeah,
would
even
say.
the lyrical content on this is kind of weird. Like the takes that he set, like
Mhm.
the themes that he deals with on this are pretty cool.
So that's kind of somewhere where I'm kind of conflicted.
Uh-huh.
Like my ears and my soul don't connect on this, right? Like when
Well
I hear it, you know, I kind of want to bang my head. I want to get it going, you know, but then my soul just thinks it's kind of cheap and just not real.
That's one of my dislikes too, is it just does not feel genuine.
Genuine, yeah.
Like it
The
lacks.
riffage is good. The songs are good. It's good, but it's missing some soul.
So I'm kind of with you on it. So I went back and forth on this. Originally, I had the lyricals or the lyrics being kind of cheesy and stuff. I think the lyrical themes are great, like I kind of just said, but I agree with you. I feel like a lot of it's forced in there.
I don't even necessarily mean like lyrically. I just feel like it seems a little safe to me. Like it's never really angry. It doesn't sound angry. It doesn't
No,
sound pissed. He's yelling. He's screaming. It's heavy riffage, but I'm not pissed.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
This isn't an angry album by any means, and I don't know if it was meant to be.
Well, it's just a weird dynamic. You know, you're
But
listening to
It's
thrash
aggressive,
metal,
but
or-
it's not.
Well, and that's where I think I get where you're coming from, because I mean, like some of these songs have to deal with like the different the gods, giving fire to humans and whatever the hell the gods.
There's folklore.
Yeah,
within
folklore and
this,
stuff
yeah.
in it. And so you would think it would be angry, but it's not. And so like these stories should be told with like a bunch of angst to them or whatever, and they're not. They're told in like kind of a third person, first person perspective, which is kind of weird.
That's my biggest dislike by far. Is it's like, where's the angst? Where's the anger?
Mhm.
Where's the emotion? Like,
So he's telling somebody else's story.
Well, but that's the thing. So he's
Yeah.
telling somebody else's story, but it switches between first and third person, and kind of like you touched, when he switches to that first person, there's no angst or anger for the situation you're in or anything. It's almost like somebody else is telling the story in that person's perspective, and so the emotional attachment's not there.
it's like
I just don't think he has any
there's like
real feeling to it. I mean, at least with James Hetfield, he had emotion behind. I could feel the emotion behind.
Well, I feel like James Hetfield though wrote a lot of songs based off personal, experience. And stuff,
totally, yeah.
where a lot of these are strictly based off stories. Like,
And that's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
my dislike. It's like I want it to be more personal and more.
Well, you
Like,
can
where's
make
the
it sound
struggle?
personal. You can make it sound more personal. I
It's
think.
You
aggressive.
can.
It's
You can put
aggressive.
emotion.
Like, I like that it's aggressive and thrashy and shit.
Mhm.
But it's not. The emotion isn't capturing my attention. Like other bands, like Space Chaser and like Municipal Waste, they're thrashy, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Right. It has like a fun mosh pit kind of vibe.
This is
to
a math problem for them.
It-
This isn't an essay. These guys are trying to get everything right where it is. I'm gonna yell like this or sing like this because the math tells me to. It's not. It's not from the soul. You know what I mean?
That's
it's.
Yeah, that's another
It's
thing.
not. Yeah.
It's another thing I don't like about it. It's like it feels like they're trying to write hits.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They're really like calculating, like if we hit this like metalcore part, it's really people are gonna sing along to it, and it just it doesn't rub me the right way.
and that kind of touched on what I was saying earlier. I feel like this album was kind of a throw out to prove that they had their own style, and it was kind of forced. And I don't know if that's what caused the rift in the band, because this was the last album they recorded with their original drummer, Travis Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was maybe because they felt like they had to do something to prove everybody wrong or to prove all the haters. Like I said, I really feel like this is kind of this was like the first step to Trivium kind of finding their own style and their own sound.
Well, I went back and I listened to other albums, right? And the
Mhm.
album right after this sounds nothing like this.
Well, and that's what I mean.
It's easier.
It's
like
It's
this
more
is
simple.
very like, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. So I feel like they put this out and they're like, "Oh, look, no, we can play. We can do all this stuff," because Ascendancy came out.
Yeah,
and
then they went on tour and tried to play those songs every fucking night, and they were like, we should write easier.
Yeah. So when this album came out, I pre-ordered it and got it, and I was pretty disappointed by it
Really?
originally because of the fact that Ascendancy was great, The Crusade was total shit in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, they got to do something great. So I pre-ordered this expecting something good, and I was kind of disappointed with it. It's a good album, but I wasn't, thrown like Ascendancy was amazing. That album was great. And I pre-ordered the next one, In Waves, because I think it was their first album with the new drummer, or their second drummer. And it was mediocre. It wasn't that great. And then I just kind of stopped listening to Trivium since then. And I kind of got into them again.
They had some hits that came out.
Yeah, but
What the Dead Man Say, you couldn't escape that song for a minute.
and I didn't think that was a good song.
Yeah, it's an earworm, and
It's not in my lane, so I avoided it.
Yeah, well, they
100%.
played the shit out of it Aftershock that year that we went.
Oh, that's right. They
It
kept
was
playing
on
it
a
on.
PA constantly, and I was like, "Oh, this is a pretty decent album." And I went home and I added it to my playlist on YouTube Music, and I was like, it's not that great." And then they did what did they do after that? The In the Court of the Dragon.
Oh yeah, from 2021.
Yeah, and I thought that was a pretty decent album. I feel like that's kind of going on their own now. I think they finally maybe found that sound.
Who knows? Because the next record could be completely
Yeah.
fucking different.
And it might be completely different, and I don't know. So I think Trivium's constant like flux of not knowing where they're going to be or what they want to do. Not really what they want to do, because I think they're doing what they want to do, but not doing something similar to the previous album kind of turned me off to them.
Yeah, so this is kind of a topic that gets brought up within the show sometimes, is that a band that, like, every album that they come out with, they're, like, reinventing themselves,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it's just disingenuous. To me, if you can change every day, you're...
Where's your identity?
Yeah, where's your idea? Who are you? You know
Well,
what I mean?
and to touch on that,
I
I don't
don't know.
I don't have an issue with the band changing their identity, but
It's
I feel
not
like
Neither do
evolution.
I.
it's not evolution. I understand that, but what I'm saying is, like,
That's kind of a good
if
point.
you attract 100,000 fans on your first album, then you completely change your style and attract 100,000 fans, but lose your first 100,000. When you do your next album, you should mix the two styles and at least.
So you're
back
talking about numbers again. This band thinks of in numbers, and
I really feel like maybe they do, or maybe they don't. But
I don't think they're going to that extreme.
I don't think they're going to that extreme. But I think what they need to do is.
I don't think it's like that. It's not like they're like Bring Me the Horizon, where they're literally trying to change genres.
Yeah, I don't think
No.
they are either. I really feel like a lot of their genre change had to do with Matt's voice being blown out, and so they adapted their style.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he talks about that in this interview.
And they adapted their style, and they tried to stay as true as they could with the vocal style he was capable of playing or doing at the time. But I really feel like now that they're kind of back in that fold where he's back able to scream and he's taking the lessons and stuff, they really need to not necessarily ditch all the fans from the more mellow stuff that when he couldn't scream, but maybe mix the two and bring everybody in the fold.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Nathan, what do you give this for a rating?
I give this a 3.4. I was very conflicted with this record, and
Wow.
I've been conflicted with this band for many years. But now that I've listened to this album, I will go and listen to more albums. There are jammers on this record. I give it a 3.4. It's actually pretty fucking solid, and I'm very surprised that I'm saying this about a Trivium record. I really am.
I give it a 3.2 out of 5. And I know exactly what you mean. Like, it's fun to listen to. I'm going to listen to it again. I think Trivium's a good band, especially after listening to this. 3.2. A for effort, though. Like, I really feel like they're trying hard on this. There's just, it lacks some emotion, but it is good thrash metal with that metalcore blend for sure.
For sure.
What about you, Casey? What do you rate this?
So I give this a 3.8. I'm kind of with you guys. I feel like it's maybe one of their better albums. I haven't really been into them for a while. But I'm with you. There's kind of a lack of emotion, but I'm with you too at the same time. This works better as something in the background. You could listen to it. You don't have to pay attention to it, and it drives up your energy and kind of gets you ready to do whatever you need to do. But if you sit down and break it down, there's a lot of little things that you want more of.
This is Blenderstyle. That was Trivium Shogun. Cheers, gentlemen.
Season 1.
Season 1. Wrap.
See you later, bitches!